been looking for a podcast to help you transform your physical and mental? One that'll shoot you straight between the eyes with truth and no BS, helping you have the right mindset to accomplish things, the iron will and fortitude to follow through with what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Mark owns martial arts schools, and after 30 years, he has some real insight for real talk, real life, real conversations, motivational, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, live from the Great 1-8. This is Real Talk with Mark Cox.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's afternoon where you're at. Where are you at, Mirsada? Where do you live?
I am right now located in Boston, and it's 12 o'clock right now.
It's 12 o'clock. You're on the East Coast.
Yes, I am.
So we're on the West Coast. So it's morning time for us, lunchtime for you guys. It's good to have you here today. Looking forward to get some of your story out today. We got to meet at a speaker competition. I think that's where, well, not a competition. It was more of a summit more than a competition. And that's where you and I got to meet, correct?
That's correct. It was amazing. I heard so many amazing, powerful shares and beautiful stories that inspired me on my journey, continue my grandfather's legacy.
That's good. That's good. So I'm going to go ahead and let you, Mirsada, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then we're going to get started, okay? So the floor is yours. Go ahead and introduce it. Tell everybody who you are, and we're going to get started with this awesome story you got.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Mirsada. I'm a life mindset, love attraction, and self-love coach. I'm also mom of 2 girls. My passion is to make a world a better place, to teach people the powers of their mind and how to unlock the powers of their subconscious, to manifest desires and the dreams that they have. It has been an amazing journey for me. I started on a spiritual awakening journey when my grandfather passed away, and everything up to this point I have manifested. God takes the glory, but it's amazing because when you understand the power of the mind, when you understand the feelings, the thoughts, emotions, and you understand how powerful your thoughts are, your life will change forever. Thank you, Mark.
That is true. Mindset is a powerful tool. And it happens to be your space, but it became your space just because of a story that you have. So I want to talk about what we talked about a week or so ago. I got to know a little bit about your story. And so coming from a war-torn country and making your journey here, and you've got some memories as a little girl.
That's
so
correct.
Let's start off with what it was and how old you were, and just, what you had to. I think that your mindset has a lot to do with what you had to come through, even get here to the United States. So Let's start as a little girl and what went down. So why don't you go ahead? Let's get your story.
Yes, so everybody, I'm originally from Bosnia-Herzegovina. In 1992, a war broke out in Bosnia, and as a little girl, I never got to live a normal life. I was forced out of my own home, and one night, just imagine closing your eyes, and in one night, you're forced out of your home with no water, with no food, with no shelter, and you have to survive in the forest while you're trying to survive. There's gunfire, there's explosions, there's people crying, children screaming, it's cold. And so my story goes how it's really the war took a lot of thousands of innocent lives, and I'm getting kind of emotional right now, because every time my father, and every time I hear the story, and especially the war that killed innocent people, it breaks my heart. And so I remember as a little girl, like the gunfire, the crying, the screaming. My mother was carrying me, and she was carrying my sister. And as she was carrying me and my sister, my grandfather was with her. My father wasn't there at the time because he was looking for food. And so imagine seeing gunfire, bloodshed. You can hear children screaming. You have to hide, and you have to hide through the forest, and you have to go through long ways through forest, because you cannot go. If they see you, you would be shot and you would die. And so it's really painful, because my mother was carrying me and she was carrying my sister. People that were, they didn't want to leave the home. They were burned inside their house. If they had any jewelry on their hands, their fingers would be cut off. And where I lived, the city was called Visegrad, and Visegrad is beautiful castle, traditional culture, and most of the men that they were killed on the bridge. My father talks about it, and also I as a child remember so much. But my father says one of the things where they gather men on, they line them up on the bridge and they cut their heads off. And so this happened in Visegrad, Drina, and from there it was very painful, because we had to survive with no water, with no shelter. So basically you have to hide through the forest. Many mothers, they couldn't carry their children. The children were screaming, crying. They had no diapers like now. And so it's like they had to use different cloths to cover the babies and children. My mom was carrying me and my sister, she's a baby, and my grandfather was helping her. And I'm getting a little bit emotional, I'm sorry guys. And so my mother couldn't carry she couldn't carry my sister any longer, because she's tired. The children are hungry. Many people are hungry. You want to help somebody, but you cannot help anybody, because there's so many people asking for help. You'll see people, with no hands, with their stomach out, and as a child, that's the life that I got to live. I never got to live a normal life. I was hiding and moving from one place to another. And just to pass the bridge, Mark, just to pass the bridge, it would take 3 days to pass the bridge. On top of 6 months, you have to walk, because if the soldiers find you, they will shoot you. And so we had to pass the bridge, the tunnel. It's a long tunnel, and then move from one location to another, to abandoned houses, to find food. If we cannot find the food, my grandfather, when my mother couldn't carry me any longer, he grabbed me. He put me on his back. And because of him, I'm alive today. He carried me. And the reason I speak so much about my grandfather, and because I want to be example of my grandfather, I think there's hope at the end of the tunnel for anybody that's going through any pain, challenges. My grandfather saved my life. And if he didn't save my life, I wouldn't be alive here today speaking in front of you guys. And so Mark led us to the tunnels, and from tunnels, we couldn't cross some of the destinations, because there were soldiers, the Serbs, they were aligned on different locations, and if they see you, they would take you, they would take the woman, they would rape the woman. 5-6 guys would rape one woman, children, they would torture the children. It's like a massacre what they would do to the people. And then they would dig big grounds. They would dig and then make the people, shoot them up and then bury them. And so we went from hiding to one location to another called Medjugorje. And from there, my father came and he was helping my mother, but we were in one room with 5, 6, or even 7 people. And we had to help one another. So my father, my grandfather, and the men, they would look for food, and so they would find the food in abandoned locations, abandoned houses. They would bring the flour, and the woman would cook the flour to make bread, and the children would be screaming. So to move to different locations, if the soldiers see you, you would die. So toward the end, after 6 months of moving to different locations, and we had to enter the last location to enter Zenica. And my father talked about how some people found the sleeping pills, and they gave the sleeping pills to the children so the soldiers don't hear them screaming and crying. And so it led them to a location where we started. It's like a safe area. It was called Zenica. And then from Zenica, it just kept moving. That's my story.
So what do you remember all that as a baby?
I remember.
What do you remember from your perspective?
I remember gunfire. I remember even as a child when I would go to school. I went to school called Kulimban, and the school was, I remember walking to the school and I heard a big explosion, like gunfire. And the teacher told us, before I heard the gunfire, I was walking to the school, it's a big explosion. Me and my best friend, we like covered ourselves. It was close to the school. And then when we entered the school, we were safe, of course, but when we entered to the school, it was gunfire and we had to hide underneath our chairs. The teacher said, hide underneath your chairs.
So you remember that. Now, if war was not, if you came to the United States because of war, is that correct?
Yes, I came in because of war. And my aunt, she lived in Germany, so she sent us paperwork to come here to help us out.
So from now, what made that place safe? The other place in Bosnia, why was that safe? How did that come about that was a safe place to go?
Many were saying that as men and the soldiers, the good soldiers got together, like my father and the family, they were saying that's a safe zone because the war, there's different locations, but those are some of the safe zones they had to go to. And Zenica was one of the safe zones.
And that is, so you were 6 months into that to get there. It took 6 months to even get there. Is that correct?
My father says, as a child, I don't remember everything, but I do remember growing up and the struggle and the pain. And I seen gunfire and I heard stories and this war stories. They've been talked about for so long. That's why I talk about mind programming and deprogramming the mind, because this is what the stories are. When you go to somebody's house and drink coffee, it's all war stories that are shared over and over again. And so this is the story that I heard as a child on repetition. And my mother spoke about it, my father spoke about it, my family spoke about it. And as a child, I remember living that experience with them. And on top of that, as a child, I remember not having food, not having water. A lady that was my grandmother, and she was walking, she had milk, and we didn't have milk, and she gave me a sip of milk. She's like, let her drink some milk.
Those are, man, I'm telling you, that when you first told me the story, and I told you, I said you need to have a book on this. It needs to be written.
It will be.
We talked about that, right? Because you got a little bit of a chapter of what has set your life to go, but that is a story that needs to be told. And somebody's going to tell the story. It might as well be you. You know what I mean? And so I still believe that today. Well, let's talk about now. You went to your next step was get to Germany. Is that correct?
My aunt lived in Germany, so she was already here. So she sent us paperwork to come here to United States.
Okay, so she sent you paperwork.
Yes.
And now, who went first? Was it you and Mom?
My mom has 3 sisters. The oldest sister, she didn't go, so it was only my mom and my 2 aunts.
And so when you got to Germany, were you there for a while?
I didn't live in Germany. My aunt lived in Germany. When we came here, and we lived in this. When we came here, we moved from location to location. But when we came to United States, we lived in this city called Chelsea. And it was my mother and my father and me and my aunt. Now, we lived first in Chelsea, but we actually moved location to location. So when we first entering United States, we lived this in like small apartment in 35 Charger Street in Revere. And we lived this in small, tiny apartment, the whole family together.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Now, I'm asking, so what state was that in?
Boston, Massachusetts.
And so that was in Boston. Was there a lot from Bosnia? Was there a lot of people coming to the United States or trying to get here?
Yes.
Was there a community where you went in Boston? Was there a Bosnia community where you guys came to? Is that how that looked?
That's how it looked. Exactly. Some people wanted to go so bad, and some were lucky to get paperwork, but that's after the war. Some were lucky to get the paperwork. Some just wanted to leave because everything was destroyed. They wanted to start a new life. Like, we had a home that my father built with his own hands that it's been destroyed. Everything that we had, all the memories, pictures, everything has been burned. So we just wanted a new start, a fresh new start. Even though my father has a huge family in Europe, 6 brothers and 5 sisters, and it's a humongous family. Some of them, they just didn't want to leave because they're used to the location, they're used to their own hometown. My parents wanted a better life for myself, my sisters, to go to college, to graduate, to, I guess, America, the dream, the opportunities to come here. And so we ended up going through all the paperwork, and then we came here.
Yes, that's interesting. Now, what was life like? Now let's say at first it wasn't, your dad wasn't with you. It was mom and 2 sisters. How long before grandparents actually got to come here, and along with your father? How long did it take before all your family was together?
Well, after a few years, because Grandpa died in 2012, so I'm not gonna say the correct date because it's been a while. I don't want to give the wrong information, but they came like after 3 years after us.
About around 3 years
After us, yes.
And now, what year was that you made it to the United States? Do you remember that year? You're
I know
probably little.
I don't know if it's 2000. I don't want to give the wrong information.
Right. Somewhere late 90s, early 2000s then, in that area, right?
That's correct, Mark.
And then your family got together. Now, did you travel anywhere outside of Boston, or did you guys stay there, or did you move to other locations, or just within different cities?
Well, when you come here, you don't speak the language, you don't understand anything. It's hard as it is. So we stayed in a small apartment, the whole family together. And then from there, as they started getting small jobs, it was like labor jobs, right? My father did a harbor flooring. He found a job through a Bosnian friend that was here, and he's been doing this job for over 10 years, so more than 10 years. And so my mom, she couldn't work because she had to take care of me, my sister, and she was pregnant, my 3rd sister, Amina. And so, like, it was really hard. So she couldn't have a job, so she has to stay. And so we kind of stay in the same apartment for a long period of time. And then as my father started making income, then we moved to a different location. So from Revere went to Chelsea, then we had our own apartment. And then from there, like, it was tough because he was the only one working, he was struggling, the English was a problem, having small children. My mom had, like, she would put them in the pre-K or school, but it couldn't because she didn't want to be separated from them, especially because of the war, what it has done for her. She wanted to be close to her children, and so my father would work tired, like from morning to night. And this is why I wanted to make a world a better place. I wanted to help them. I wanted to be the change. So I would try to succeed in everything, do more work. As a younger child, like whatever my mother told me to do, like it would be more like adult job, helping my mother, taking care of my sisters, helping them work together.
So I'm listening to this, and even as hard as that was it better than where you were? Is that correct?
Well, America, life of all dreams, opportunities, was better here, 100 times. I think. And I went back to visit. I would never, like, I feel I'm born Bosnian, but I just don't belong. Like, when I go there and I see the burned houses and I see how people struggle and I see the lifestyle they live even now and how things are rebuilding, I just don't feel like I belong there. I feel like I want to help them. And when I went to visit, like, even no matter how much I give from my heart and how many children I help, it's never enough because people, they don't have, the government is not good. Like, everything is at I would say, like, the matrix, everything's destroyed. People, they fought over land, money, religion, but everything is destroyed. So it's slowly rebuilding, but it's destroyed.
Were you the first? Were you the first one to start learning English in school and help the family, or how did you guys overcome a language barrier? How did that happen?
Well, when we came here, we had to take English as a second language. So where we lived, next to the apartment, there used to be this, like, a small area, ESL, English as a second language. So my father and mother, they had to learn the language itself. So they would get these booklets, and they would have to study the booklets, how to say hi, how are you. But it wasn't like the American English. It was like the English, the England English. And so by us going to school, by putting us in small, like, school, we slowly started learning, me, my sisters, And the more at first it was like a Bosnian, there was what's it called, the first school I went to, I cannot remember. It's been a long time, but there was this guy, Skero, and Vera Dumancic was a teacher, and it's inside American school. This Bosnian people were teaching, so you would be learning Bosnian and English at the same time.
You know, it's because it fascinates me on just when I listen to your story and you talk about, you know, it's America where things are, and most Americans don't really understand what it's like to come from a war-torn country to here. And so we're, you know, Americans are kind of complacent and lazy. Let's just say that. You know,
Right.
they're so spoiled with what they have. They don't really know what they have, to be honest with you.
Well, Mark, we had everything, like the happy family, the house, the cars. My parents worked, had the good jobs. We were well off. We didn't have to depend on anybody. Here in America, you have to you have to provide for yourself. You have to depend on somebody to provide. And so we had everything. Everything was taken care of, and then just you lost everything, so you have to start rebuilding all over again. And so just watching my parents struggle, my father, like I love my parents so much. My father has nightmares. He's been having migraines for a long period of time because he's been having bad dreams, and it's because he, as a soldier, he has seen things that most people haven't seen in their lives. Now,
That's right.
Seeing people with no arms, explosions of the stomach, and different things, and he's seen with his own eyes. This is what he gets to relive every time. And so this is why I believe God put me and gave me the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to teach people how to overcome the pain, the challenges, the hurts, and how we can heal this trauma, the pains, because most of the things we're experiencing right now in our life, we're living it day-to-day lives, we're not even aware of it.
Yes, that is that is true. What you're saying is 100% true. And when I'm listening to your story, part of me is like, you know, I feel proud that I'm from a country that has the ability that you can come in. And what you said is right. The opportunity is here. Whether you take it or not is up to you. Okay. And it looks like when you come from a place like that, hard work is something that was part of what your family does already. So it's not, it doesn't surprise me that they made a life for themselves based on how they're gonna work. And I mean, coming from 6 months and going through tunnels and going through, you know, your dad being a soldier, I can imagine the thoughts that came from him. And your grandfather, when he came, he probably also worked. Is that correct? Once he got here.
Well, they have this belief, or I don't know if it's a paradigm since when they've been born. It's like they have to work hard and kill themselves and work hard. And so that's what they did to build the houses. He built it with his own hands. He was hard work. He and his brother, they built a house. And my grandfather, they have this cultural thing where you have to work hard. You have to work hard. There's no other way you can make money. There is no other way you can survive. And so this is the belief that's been passed down. So I remember as a little girl, like after the war, and they were finally settling down and were living this awful houses, we don't have the nice furniture, the nice cars, all the stuff that we had before. We don't have all these beautiful things, but they're not important because materialistic things, they're just temporary. Because without it, rich or poor, we're gonna go to the same grave. And what I'm trying to say is that I remember stealing money. I remember stealing money. My father had money on the fridge, and it was like couple coins, couple 25 cents. Like when you add them up, you can make $1. And it's in Bosnia, it's called jedna marka, $1, and you can buy ice cream. And so I remember stealing that money and going to the store, so excited as a little girl, going to the store and buying that ice cream, and then coming home with the ice cream in my hand. And so excited. My father was like, okay, so where's the money from the fridge? And at the time, as a child, I didn't understand that. Like now, as I'm 32, I'll be 33. I'm understanding now, the mindset, the scarcity mindset, the worry about money, the beliefs about money. And I remember taking that money, stealing it, and he's telling me like he was disappointed in me. Like I didn't feel like I would deserve it, even though he didn't feel what he was trying to tell me. He loves me. He wanted me to appreciate money. He wanted me to appreciate the life we have, to be grateful for the things we have. I didn't understand as a child. So as I got older, I didn't think I was deserving of money. That money is hard to make. That money is evil. That all these things, all these beliefs that have been passed down generation.
Man, that's hard. Now, 2012 comes, and then your life is, was it unexpected? Was your grandfather sick? Was it unexpected to lose him? How did that look for you? Because this is where things
Yeah.
change for you.
My grandfather was my hero. As a little girl, he spoiled me. Whether it's my birthday, he would buy me gigantic candy, like this big giant of candy. He would buy me things. He would spoil me. He would come visit me. And so somebody I looked up to so much. And in 2012, when he died from cancer, uh, it was it was it was so hard because for me, I used to cut his hair. He used to come to the house when we lived in Chelsea. And when we moved, like as we moved to different locations and finally bought a house here in Revere, and then my family like started to get better and better, and then having better jobs, and he would come to the house, and he only trusted me to cut his hair. So I had this amazing grandfather where I would cut his hair, and the first time I cut his hair, I messed up, so he told me shave it all off. It made him bald, and again, my this amazing relationship where he taught me to love others, to be kind, to be honest, to give to others. Like he taught me like so much that he was like my hero. And so what I loved about him, and I know it breaks my heart. This is why I want to continue my grandfather's legacies, because he was an orphan. He didn't have a mother and father, and he married my grandmother, who was also an orphan, and she was didn't have her parents, and they fell in love. And during the war, he would go out of his way to get food for the children, and for people, for me, for everybody. And this is why it's hard to find people like that. It's fine to find people who they would risk their own life to help others. And so I wanted to be an example of him. And so we had this amazing relationship. And when he died, like my world turned upside down. Like everything that I tried to accomplish it just started to become difficult. Like I started being depressed. I started being angry. I started feeling low self-esteem. I was going through all those, especially as a teen, going through all those changes. You're feeling low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, comparison, anything those thoughts, negative thoughts. I started feeling those things, and it led me to a really bad depression, Mark.
Yes, that's kind of where, you had a life, this is where the starting of where your life now. When at 2012, were you married at that time? Did you find your husband here in the
Okay.
States?
What
Where did that come in with your family?
In 2012, I told my grandfather that I met the love of my life and that I wanted to get married, but I didn't want to get married because he was sick. And he said, no, he called me to the house. And before he was sick, I went to visit him, actually. I went to visit him. He was yellow. His whole body was yellow. His face was yellow and swollen. And I went there, and as I was seeing him, he was smiling at me. And I said, Grandpa, lay down. I want to massage your hands and your feet. And so he laid down, and I was massaging his hands and feet. And then I saw my grandma crying in the bathroom. In 2000, she was crying in the bathroom, and I asked her what's wrong, and she said she was trying to give Grandpa a shower, and he fell, and she said that his time is up, he's dying. And so I felt so sad because at this time I got engaged, and Grandpa is sick, and it's like too much. And so I go to talk to my grandpa, and I'm telling him, well, I'm massaging him, I'm talking to him, and said, Grandpa, I'm engaged to be married. I don't know what to do. You're sick. I don't know if you're gonna. And he said, Mirsada, that he loves me, that life goes on, life goes on, that I need to continue my life, and I need to get married. And so after he died, I was depressed, so depressed, but I was engaged. I didn't get married right away. We waited. And then when Grandpa died and they buried him, we got married.
Mm. And then you have children now,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You have daughters, is that correct?
I have 2 girls.
2 girls. Yes, I have a little girl. She's not
One.
so little anymore, but
Oh,
uh
oh.
yes,
The,
I had 3 boys and a little girl
well,
myself.
you have boys, Mark,
I do.
and
I
a
have
little girl. Oh,
yes, I have 3 sons,
the biggest
and
blessing.
yes, my oldest one's married, and he helps me run the studio, and one's graduating. My youngest boy is graduating college next Saturday, and so it's been something. It's you know, yeah, I've got, and then my little girl's my baby. Yeah, she's 21 now, but so she's my baby, that's for sure. So I get what it is to be a mom. So when you know, so you lose your grandpa. I'm interested in this part of your story. So
Yes.
you had depressions and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and right when you were starting to get married,
Hmm.
when did you have a change of your mind? Were you saying this? Do you tell me if this is correct? Because I talk about this all the time. No
Yeah.
matter how much counseling or whatever we have or whatever we do, whatever we go through, at some point
Hmm.
we have to make a decision in our mind that something's going to change. Do you agree with that?
That's correct. Because as I was going through this depression, I was feeling angry. I was so angry, I hated God because I still love God so much. And at this point, I hated God because 2 nights before, when they told me that he's gonna die, I said no, that's not gonna happen because I thought God was gonna protect him, he's gonna save him. So I prayed the whole 2 nights. I cried 2 nights, and it didn't happen. I went to my work. On my way to my work, I received a phone call. I worked for Lufthansa at that time. When I came to the work, a gigantic, beautiful, big, gigantic picture was on the wall. And as I walked in, this picture broke in 1,000 little pieces. I received a phone call that Grandpa died, and I had to come home. And as I'm going back home in the train, I'm crying, and people looking at me like, "What's wrong with this girl? Like she's bawling, she's crying so much." I receive another phone call. My mom says, "Don't go home. Go straight to grandpa's, like this old elderly home." So I go directly there, and the whole family is there. They're all sitting. They're all crying. Children, smaller, my aunts, cousins, and that's the first time in my life that I see a person walks in and brings a big, gigantic bag, black bag, and he puts my grandpa in that bag. And after that moment, when I came home, depression, crying, I was just like, what is going on? What is this happening? And going through that led me to a spiritual awakening. Like, it started with, after days, feeling worse about myself, I started just trying to feel better. And then I came across a book called, I don't know how many of you heard a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But actually, the first book that I came across, it wasn't Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon. It was called The 16 Laws by Napoleon Hill.
I know that book.
Yeah, I kind of grabbed it and I was reading it. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Then I started reading. As I started reading, talks about paradigms, talks about how brain is a transmitter of frequency. And then I started slowly, as I'm reading, connecting like the dots, the pains, the trials. I started connecting the dots, thinking, I started thinking to myself, why is it that people die? Why is it? What am I here to do? Who am I in this? Like, I started asking myself some weird questions. And then it led me to realize that, we are here to create. We're God's creation. We're here to create the life that we desire to have. And so as I started learning that our thoughts are so powerful. Everything that we've been experiencing, okay, war happened how God wanted to be, but everything else that happens in our life, depression, anger, low self-esteem, anxiety, suicidal, no matter what it is, those are the thoughts that are playing in our mind. And these thoughts, they create energies, and they create frequencies and emotions. And this is why we feel stuck, we feel lost, we feel confused, because we go into this cycle. We experience this cycle over and over again, and we don't know why. And automatically, when I read this part where it says that we have 80,000 thoughts that we're not even aware of, they're subconsciously programmed, and they keep replaying in our mind. And the way we live our life, and the pains we experience, because we so much dwell in our mind, and we focus so much on the negative, that we kind of build this belief in our mind that everything is bad, and then we start experiencing all these bad things. And so I started kind of reading more books, educating myself, studying more, binge watching, connecting to people, and it led me to groups, connections, investing in mentors, coaches, to realize. And then I realized so many times we're living this lie. This belief is a lie. The programming is the habits. Everything has been passed down. And some of these beliefs that we're living are not even own. Like, we're living, even as a child, I'm living trauma, but I healed some of the trauma. My parents haven't healed their trauma yet, because everybody, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So God puts each person through, I think, spiritual awakening. And I think I went through that spiritual awakening because I hated God so much that I was questioning everything, questioning life. And then I realized about the lies, the illusions, the matrix. And then everything just started connecting all the dots. But it led me to read books, more books. The more books I read, the more videos I watched. It just, God slowly align you with different opportunities, align you with different resources. And then slowly I started loving God, appreciating God, and understanding that everything that happened for me was a blessing, because it actually, I'm not in Bosnia anymore. I'm here now, Mark. I'm living
That's
life.
true.
I am happy. I'm not depressed. I'm happy. And I learned what caused me depression, what caused me anger, what caused me those thoughts. And I'm grateful that, I didn't have the as opportunity as a child to help my parents that much. But now, as I'm older, I know this information, right? And I know now how I can help them heal, because we have so much beliefs, paradigms. I don't know. It depends on what age you are, but you have stored up so much trauma, emotions, paradigms, past beliefs that you're not even aware of, and you have to heal. And the only way we can experience different results is that we have to heal from the inside, process pain, trauma, hypnotherapy, I mean, whatever it is, and then you can slowly manifest on the outside.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So let's talk about where we met at Sticker Shock, and
Yeah.
where did you find Daniel Gomez, and then have him as speaking something you've always wanted to do, or he put the seed into you and then you went to the, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk a little bit about your speech there, but let's talk about how you got there first.
Well, it led me on this spiritual journey. Let me tell you, it's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster. You have to be stronger and tough, stronger than your emotions. And it led me to, social media, from social media, connecting to people, slowly building my brand. I'm still not there yet. I'm learning how to. It led me to different applications, and it led me to an app called Clubhouse. And on Clubhouse, I started speaking, I started sharing, I started connecting. I noticed people started liking me so much that they started asking me questions. How do I work with you? Tell me more about yourself. And so from there led me to opportunities where other people wanted to interview me, podcast, TV, radio. And so I met Daniel in a room called Manifest Your Dreams. And it was run by, I think his name is Jacqueline Matthews. Yes, it was run by Jacqueline Matthews. And from there, I connected one night. I heard him speak. It was called Create Conference with, I think, Kevin Johnson. And I heard him speak. That's many times he spoke in the Clubhouse, but I was shy to reach out. And then one night I heard him speak, and I just fell in love with his story. And I loved the message he was sharing with the world. And one night I wrote a list of my dreams I wanted to accomplish. And I sent him a message. I said, hi, Daniel, my name is Mirsada. This is what I want to accomplish. This is my dream. I probably don't know me that much. So I sent him this list of all the dreams. And I didn't think he was going to answer, because, right, these big people, I don't know if they're going to ever answer, right? So I ended up trusting God. And the next following few days, I received a message from Daniel. And he said, let's connect, let's do a Zoom together. And from there, it just led me to opportunities. But even before, I had to connect, I had to grow, I had to learn. I invested in coaches, mentors. But how I met Daniel is God sent. I met him through Clubhouse, a speaking application. And then from there, I started going to his rooms, learning from him. He used to share a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and I was very intrigued. And when he spoke at the Create Conference, just like my heart whatever he shared like resonated with him. Like I felt like this is exactly who I want to work with. I need to learn everything from this man. And from there led us to opportunities where he was coaching me, teaching me. At the same time, I was promoting his book called The Making of the Millionaire Mind. And the course was called, also the course, he gave me the course as a gift. So I ended up studying it, taking the knowledge, spending time learning it. And then I learned everything that I studied up to, from 2012. It made sense because he talked about it in the course. And so I started sharing with the world. Of course, people found it strange at the beginning because they don't know about the brain transmitter frequency. They don't know about energies. They don't know about how to match frequencies and energies. So this was strange to people at the beginning. And so the more I started sharing, the more people started being more interested. And so it led me to different opportunities where I spoke at Clubhouse. Even now, as I'm speaking here, Mark, I'm being interviewed, led me to an opportunity where I said I was going to feed, I don't know how, that I said in my heart, I'm going to feed 1 million of children. I'm so happy and grateful now. By this date, I'm going to feed this many children. And I didn't feed that many children, but I did have a chance to go in 2019 to Bosnia. And I did feed so many children, not 1 million, but I fed the children. It felt so good. From there, it led me, when I came back, we started working more with Daniel, started learning more with Daniel. And he said, what is your dream? It's like my dream really is speaking. It's always been sharing my story so I can give hope to other people so they can see they can overcome any pain, any challenge. And so it led me to speaking events with Daniel, to Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. And then it led me to another event that I just spoke called Save the Next Generation, Our Children. And then it led me to a couple of events. So now my phone is booked. I'm doing another event, maybe with Jesse as well. And so I'm just grateful and thankful that God is aligning these opportunities, because I feel like he wants me to share the story to help millions. And I believe that my story is going to feed millions of children.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. So I saw you. So I'm going to talk about your speech a little bit, because you were super nervous about getting on stage, because we talked about it the night before. We were sitting at, we were all, I think Terry Hux was with us, and we were sitting at a table, and Emilio was there, and we were talking, and you were super, super nervous about doing it. Then you got on stage, and then Daniel cut you off, remember? So you need to stop. And you need to go. And then he jumped on your case, and I'm like, oh my goodness, is she going to fold, or is she going to make it happen? And because I was there, I was watching that, right? I remember telling Daniel, boy, if you talk to me that way, Daniel, I'm going to choke you out, dude. And so I said, and he goes, man, she has to bring it out. She's got a story. And we were talking a minute, and then you stopped. Tell me I never got to ask you this question. Tell me your thought process right in that moment. Were you like, oh my gosh? Or were you like, okay, man, I'm just going to have to start over and do it again?
I went through so much rejection on the spiritual journey, the spiritual awakening. And what I can tell people is this, Mark, this is not easy. It's not for everybody. I know, but everybody has a specialized gift, and everybody has a specialized knowledge. This is really an emotional roller coaster. Like when you're manifesting your dreams, it's not easy, being a mom, being a wife, managing these thoughts, healing, processing. You really have to be stronger than the words, what people say to you. They throw stones at you, you throw flour at them. You have to be stronger than the feelings and emotions. Because if you can manage your strong feelings and emotions, like if Daniel told me, maybe the previous version of myself probably be like, okay, why would he do that? You probably get angry. But no, I felt like, okay, he's right. He cares for me. He's been helping me. He wants to see me win. And this is the people you need around yourself, people that want to see you win. And at that moment, I was like, he really cares about me. Because other person, if it was in his shoes, he's okay, let her go through, And this is my reel. This is a professional reel that million of other, speakers are going to see. Companies are going to hire me because of this reel. He cared for me. He's like, okay, Mirsada, stop. I know how you present. I know how you speak. You can do better. And at that time, I was like, you know what? He really cares for me. I'm going to bring it. And that's why I spoke from my heart.
That was good. It was good. And you did bring it right after that, too. I said, oh, man, she pulled that off so good. And I remember it vividly because I was in the back when you were speaking, right? So I wanted to watch it from the backside. I wanted to see how you did, right? I was at a table and I said, okay, when she talks, because we talked the night before, I said, I want to see how she does. And so I was back there with Daniel, and then Daniel did it. And I'm like, man, you are mean, bro. And I said, he's like, she can do this, man. She can do this. And so, yeah, he was pulling for you big time. He was pulling for you big time. So, and then you pulled it off, man. You did good. It was fun. And then we got to meet, and you told a little bit of your story, but then, you and I got to talk a little bit more because I helped you a little bit with the writing portion of what you're trying to do for a chapter in a book. And
exactly.
And I'll tell you, just from my experience, right? It was a year ago, Mirsada. When you talk about mindset, right? It was a year ago. Was a year and 2-3 months ago that I decided that I'm going to write the book that I have. And I was so lost in the process, right? I was like, man, I had no in how to make my thoughts the way they need to be. How am I going to get this done? And then, I was coached through Emilio, right? And I got it done. And for a year later to start helping other people write, there's no way a year ago I would have said I would be helping anybody write anything. And then to be able to help people kind of get their thoughts together and interview. And it's probably because my podcast, I interview, I think you're 101 today or something to that effect. But Terry last week was 100. And so I was like, from the interview processing, asking certain questions and learning from the person that helped me write, how they interviewed me and how we went about it. It was just fun. And so that speaks for mindset, right? Because there's no way that you would I would have ever thought that I would be able to help out that way. Because I even helped Emilio out, I think, with his chapter also. And it was powerful. These were powerful stories. I mean, I had to get up after Emilio's whole deal, right? That was not an easy speech to go about doing, after Emilio's talk. So I get what that was. And I wanted to make sure I tell you just how awesome I thought it was, that because I know, because you told me a little bit about your story, and I mean, you've been hammered, and the self-esteem that comes with it, and you were hammered, and then he pushes you, and then you overcame it, and then you knocked it out of the park. And it was so good. It was so fun to watch you win at that particular moment, that it probably one of the highlights of my weekend was that. Because I like to see people get under adversity, because I put people like, I say that to Daniel, but I do it to my students all the time. I put pressure on them all the time. I push them to a next level. And I want to see them, they're either going to fold or they're going to have victory. One of the two is going to happen, or they're going to learn in the process. Either way you go. And then you overcame that. And I thought that was super, super powerful. And I just want to make sure I gave you the proper, gratitude of me getting to be there to watch it, and you pushing through on the time that you needed to. So that should tell you something about yourself. When push comes to shove, your attitude is bring it. Whenever there's two things, right? If there's an obstacle, you're going to either go over it, around it, or through it.
Exactly.
And you went through it that day, and you became really good. Now, you said that particular time, though, kind of started catapulting you, because I started watching after that sticker shock. You really started doing more reels. I saw you really pushing a brand out on yourself now to try, and you have this passion to help others. And you have a story. You have this awesome story, because first of all, it makes me super proud to be an American, right? And then I see that the country here, you didn't make excuses. Your grandfather didn't make excuses. Your dad and mom certainly didn't make any excuses. They put their head down. They went to work. There's opportunity, and they went after it. I just think it's such a powerful thing. And now you're doing the same thing. So what you were taught as a little girl, at that sticker shock, and then you spoke, and now you're kind of getting after it, and you have this brand. And are you still doing anything on Clubhouse? Do you do anything on Clubhouse or no?
Yes. So right now I am speaking on different. I'm speaking on Clubhouse. Yesterday we spoke with Jay Noland on Chat GPT, which was pretty amazing. How to use the services and resources instead of trying to figure out your own. You have actually Chat GPT that can help you get your course out, get your book out. I mean, so many things now you can use the resources, and led me to the understand that pain is part of the process. We'll be forced with to make decisions with everything that happens in our life, and it made me realize that if I want something, I just have to push through. I have to go after what I want. And it started with connecting to such amazing people. Sticker shock, like, it led me to opportunity. God opened opportunity, like door opportunity portals for me. But even when I started working with Daniel, because you're working for a multimillionaire, learning from a multimillionaire, that's when opportunities started opening up, because somebody saw more in me than I saw in myself. So Daniel saw more in me than what I saw in myself. He gave me the opportunity to show me, okay, yes, you can do it. I believe in you. Because as children, we don't get that praise. Oh, you can do this. You're smart. You're this. You get this. It's not our parents' fault, but that's how the culture and generations we've been raised. You're not good enough. You're not smart. You can't do this, right? And so this is the program you've been living. And so now you have to heal and process. And so when I understood somebody loves me, somebody cares for me, somebody believes in me, led me to just start believing more in myself, led me to opportunities where a guy saw me, spoke in Washington. He's from Washington, D.C. His name is Alex Mason. He saw me spoke. He saw me share from my heart, and he heard me speak in Clubhouse, and he would always write to me, "You're so powerful." But I didn't believe it, right? The belief. You still have to have that belief. And so the more I started stepping out of my comfort zone, beginning, it was awful. I didn't have the resource. I didn't have the coaches. It was hard, right? You have to learn and grow and develop and grow as you go. And it's the hard thing was stepping out of my comfort zone, like to be myself, right? Because you in this world, if you want to succeed, you have to really be you. And so that's when I started stepping out of my comfort zone, meeting with people, going to events, saying yes to everything, to opportunities, and also saying no. If it doesn't align with my mission and my vision, it's a no. And so it led me to speak at Clubhouse, to speak at different events. Then I created me and Alex created this room called Conquer Club, where we actually started giving information to people, and that's how we were building this client relationship and it led me to Alex Mason. You see how God aligns? You just have to take the action, believe in yourself, take the step that you can do it, and trust God. You cannot trust your own ability, but you have to trust in God's ability, because he put the vision. He put the vision in my dream when my grandfather died. And now it's strange to say that, because I don't know, like the vision that I saw that I closed my eyes when I see it was unbelievable. I knew that he had different mission for my life. And so Mark, I was at home. I spoke, and I wasn't on Clubhouse because Grandma got sick and she's paralyzed right now at the moment. So I kind of took a short break, and he heard me speak. He came all the way from Washington D.C. to help me right now, and we're in process right now of finishing the course to help people overcome depression and anxiety and suicidal. And so we're now finishing this course, and it's about to be launched very soon. I'm doing the last recording. But you see how God works. Like, you don't know the answer of how. You might be stuck. You just have to believe in yourself, take that action, step out of your comfort zone, and trust God. Take that inspired action when it comes, and he will provide the resources, the people, the podcast, the TV, the news, the radio, all of it for you.
Yes, is 100%. And you've owned that. So I've watched you. It's been pretty inspirational, just so you know, right? I've watched you. And this Clubhouse thing is interesting. As much as I do my broadcasting and stuff like that, I have not heard of it. I've heard of it, but not really looked into it. And because I'm on the same journey as you are, I have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience in my life that can help others that have same as you. Most people's mindsets aren't where they need to be. And and you hear about mindset all the time. Mm-hmm. But I have a story, because I have a story of when I spoke into existence, losing a major competition because of what I spoke into it. And then I told myself that is never going to happen again. And the next year, I went after it again. And then I kept the title for another 4 years after that. But that I spoke into existence losing that day. And man, that was a hard lesson. That's an expensive lesson when you have the expense of competing all year. You're a top seed, and then you say the wrong thing right before you compete in your head, and then it translated right to what I did, and I'm like, oof, I cannot do that anymore. And so that was a major lesson, and that's what put me on the next journey, is to take my experiences, because I have a fun experience. You had this war-torn, I mean, your story is pretty intense, right? I've got this, experience of wanting to be a world champion and having a business that people said I had no business having. And then overcoming those obstacles, which we all do. Everybody has a story. Everybody has an awesome story, but coming out of a war-torn country, getting yourself here, watching you take your lessons from your parents and your grandparents, then continue a legacy onto your grandfather that came from a war-torn country, that put you on his back, carried you out and while you were in forest and tunnels in order for you to get where you are today. And now you're going to take that and you're going to manifest it into other people's lives. That is a story in itself, and look forward to seeing where it goes. So with that being said, Mirsada, you said you have something coming out. Do you have an actual website for yourself and stuff like that, or not?
Okay, so God is taking all the work, he's taking all the glory, and the course is being done very soon. July 5th and 6th will be finally done. There's a website called Global Mirsada. You can check it out. That's where you can, see my testimonials. You can see my feedback from clients. And there's another app where I speak directly. Clubhouse is amazing, Mark, and you need to get on it because you're meeting with powerful people, all over the world. They can, transform your life in one day. You're one connection away from perfect life. And it led me to, just after this, podcast, I'm doing an interview. We'll be interviewed again, and all these amazing opportunities, magazine, all these things. And I want to say, get on it, Mark, because it's going to open whatever you're doing, how amazing you are. You talked about it in your story. You're going to help so many people. So you need to get on the Clubhouse. Another app they can contact me, it's called Owl, where as a coach, I help them. They pay for my service, but to speak to me. And then I help them with their mindset, how to program the mind, deprogramming the mind, hypnotherapy, emotional freedom techniques. I mean, there's so much that I give services, and they can choose something from there and directly contact me. Also, I'm all over social media because I've been building myself since 2012. And one thing I can tell you, everybody starts off, nobody's successful. It takes time, it takes work. A beginning, I sucked at it, but I think that my motto is that it's either the thing is for me, it's either you stay where you are and you will live the same life for the rest of your life, or you do something different. You step out of your comfort zone and you experience the magic. And so for me, I said to myself, why is it that 99% of people are doing the same thing? Why is it? So I started questioning everything. That's why it led me to people, connection, opportunities. And not only that, now I have, as a coach myself, now I have a course that's under me. Before I used to give services through advance plans where people pay to click on this link, click on this exercise to purchase it. But on Owl is you directly speak to me. You ask me questions, I help you, and then you'll see my testimonies, you'll see my feedback from people. So you can connect with me through Instagram, to Facebook group, through any of the social media networks.
So what I want you to do for me today, so when we're done today, I want you to give me that website and everything. I want you to give it to me on your Facebook Messenger, because everything I do on video, I also make an audio version of this. Okay. So the audio version will be out today, and I'll give you, and you'll see another link and say, hey, the audio podcast with Mirsada has dropped. And then you can share all that. The video will always be there. You're always on my YouTube channel, but now I can go back into YouTube because I have your bio in there, and I'm going to have all your info, how to contact you. And then it's also on my website at markcox.com. You'll have that. And I will go in and edit and make sure that I have all your contact information so people can come on to. I feel One day, you and I are going to speak on the same stage.
Yes, we will.
You watch. Whether it's going to be your stage one day, I'm going to be there, or whether we're together at some other stage, but we're going to speak again together. I can feel it.
I feel it.
And we're going to have some fun doing that. So this was an awesome hour, man. I ever since I took an interview, when I interviewed you a little bit about helping you with that chapter of the book, and I told you, I said, oh my goodness, this story has to be, and it has to be told. And I'm going to tell you why, because, man, we are so spoiled as Americans. I cannot tell you, every time I hear immigrants that have come from here to a war-torn country to here, put their heels in, America is there, and it's there for the taking if you want it. Okay. It's not this racist, whatever. It's all there. You want it. You got it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. The opportunity is fair to everybody, and it's not going to be easy, but you got to dig your heels in and you got to get after it. And to hear that story, to where you came and to where you're at, because I've watched you since that day, and I have watched your reels. I didn't, even myself, as much as I do all this stuff, I didn't really. One day I made one reel, and I didn't even know I made a reel. I thought I was doing some kind of just a quick video for my Facebook, but I must have hit the reel thing. This is almost a year ago before I even knew it. And it was just me talking about, a 30-second talk about being an older guy, and this is what you got to do. Don't let age get in the way. And man, that thing went, I was like, what the heck, man? That thing went crazy. I'm like, how did I get in all these likes? Is this just a video on my Facebook page? That's just not how it worked, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is pretty powerful, man. You get your stuff out there. It can go either way, right? It can, like you said, there's sometimes you do things and it really sucks, but you got to go through the suck in order to get the to get to the prize. You got to embrace the suck in order to get to the next level. It just is what it is. It's how life is crazy. But this has been an awesome hour. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, getting on the Beyond the Map podcast. This is what I do, and this is what it's all about. Everything I do in my martial arts and the fighting and all that all the real work happens beyond the mat. What you learn here, it's got to be go out there, just like what you do. It's everything that you took, life experiences and what you did and your grandfather's legacy, and now you're putting it out there for everybody else to see. Just an awesome thing. I really appreciate the time. So we're going to be doing this together. Trust me. We're going to do something again.
I just want to say that, some out there is depending on you to do what God has called you to do. And I think that everybody has this amazing gift, but most time we don't do it because we're so afraid. So if I can just tell one thing is what Daniel told me is to be yourself. And it doesn't matter how a beginning is as hard as it is, it gets easier and easier, but you shouldn't always instead of focusing on now. And most people focus on instant gratification, focus on delayed gratification, because when you actually do that and you put in the work and you slowly build, you'll see the results. You have to plant the seeds and water them, let the sun, and then everything else will manifest in your life.
Awesome way to end the show. Appreciate you so much, Mirsada. This will be out in audio. Make sure you go on Messenger for me and give me all your information on how to contact you. And I'll be looking into Clubhouse today. All right.
Mark.
Have an awesome day.
There is, you said don't edging God out when you spoke on the stage.
Yes, I did.
I just fell in love with your story and how you shared that so many times we edge God out. We're focusing our ego. We're focusing. Just go after what you want and never give up.
Thanks. Appreciate it so much. Much love. We'll see ya.
Bye, Mark.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mark Cox. Real life, real topics, real conversation. We're passionate about motivation, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, and coming at it from a real angle. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you had fun. We know we did. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at MarkCox100. Make sure to subscribe and review. And tell a friend or two about the show. For more, hit up the website at markcox.com. Till next time, keep it real.